Order. If you would, let's call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Matheson?
Here.
Mr. Payne?
Here.
Ms. Reese? Here. Mr. Carlton?
Here.
Mr. Peak?
Here. All right, we'll stand, have a moment of silence, then we'll ask Mr. Peak, our student board member, if he would, to lead us in the pledge. Mr. Peak?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a couple of recognitions here. Jerry Gentry with Youth Basketball League.
Back. We were here last month and we came up with several different things that we think would help. We have totally been bombarded with parents and kids. They don't want to miss the second year of basketball. And we all know it's tough and, fully understand everybody's concerns. But we went ahead and conducted sign-ups. And we told all our parents that there was not a go, that, we had to come back to the school board. But with that being said, we came up with 204 kids that signed up to play youth league and 64 cheerleaders. So how that would break down to possibly help you all. 2019, our last year that we played, we had 33 teams. And the numbers are down some, and that's different reasons. We would have 19 teams this year. And what the board has come up with to propose is that there would only be one practice per team per week. In the past, we've had two. With these numbers and with the practice like that, we would no longer need to utilize the Laurel School. And we could do only two practice per school per night. And then, of course, fog afterwards. Games would be played only on Saturdays. And with these numbers, games would only be played at Rones Creek because it's a bigger gym and, give everybody more room to spread out. We would advise parents that, try to leave as soon as possible after your games. We're not going to do any concessions to try to keep, a lot of times people want to hang out when you're doing concessions. And the board has come up with some specific just COVID rules that would apply for this year only. Basically, that we're telling everybody that if a game is canceled because of COVID, it will not be made up. So that means the only makeup games would be weather related. Saturday at Rones Creek. And we're taking it serious. If, just like a team tries to get more than one practice a week, that coach is gone. So we're going to close all the practices. It's just going to be the kids and the coaches. No parents, no siblings at practice. Again, trying to reduce the number of people in the gym at any time. It's going to be up to the parents to notify the coaches if their kid is tested for COVID or has been quarantined. So we're going to say if a kid got quarantined and they're still in quarantine, they're not to show up for anything. So that's the highlights of what the board has come up with to try to keep it as few people as possible, but still give the kids the opportunity to play.
Board questions?
We approved this last time.
Jerry,
Yes, sir.
where do you get your quarantine instructions from?
We really don't, Gary. you know, because of HIPAA, you know, the school can't tell us, so we're gonna rely on the parents and the coaches to try to determine if that kid is quarantined or sick. And we hope the parents would not bring we're telling the parents not to bring their kids if they've got any symptoms, even if they're quarantined or not. But we have no way of, you know, we work with the schools, but you know, we're not part of the school program, so we don't have a way to know 100% that that kid is quarantined unless, you know, it comes out. We don't have a list that these kids can't play. And if I'm correct, the schools are not allowed to give us that list.
Where does the school get the instruction from on quarantine?
Tennessee Department of Health.
Now, is that about to change? I know we're getting off topic, but.
Dr. Simcox has got an update for us tonight.
Okay.
I mean, could happen.
They spent a lot of time on it. Y'all spent a lot of time trying to figure this out.
We have, yes, we've even expanded our boards. And to clarify what I told you last month, I had all intentions. I told you I wouldn't remain president this year, but because of different reasons, I'm still here, so one more year.
The Volunteer of the Year award.
But we have, we've tried to come up with everything possible, and I know the principal has concerns, and, you know, but there are a lot of parents out here is, you know, a lot of kids is wanting to play, and I guess we're trying to build a bridge. I mean, you all have been so great in the past, and, you know, we're all concerned. Because the last thing we want is a sick kid, but
Mr. Adams, didn't you say you could instruct and would instruct the coaches on fogging? Because we know,
If
okay.
we want to set up time to get them all in one place, I'll show them how and how much to use.
Because I know that the janitors are not gonna be there most of the time,
Correct.
so.
and by our plan, we would plan on with just 2 practices per school being out by 8 o'clock every night. That would leave a 5 o'clock practice and a 6:30 practice. Both of them would be over by 8 o'clock.
Jerry, I have one more question.
Okay?
Why cannot the Doe Valley gym be used to play in?
It could be used, and we've used it in the past.
Yeah, I know.
With the numbers we have this year, and you know, Doe can get pretty crowded. Rumsprick's a little bit bigger. We're looking at no more than 9 games a Saturday, because we're going from 33 teams to 19 teams. And we would still use Doe for practices, but the board felt like it would be better if we could play at one school, and Bronx Creek was picked because it's bigger, gives the spectators more room, and that's the only reason. If we had more teams, we would be asking to use those for games too.
Sounds like y'all put a lot of thought into this.
We've tried. We don't have all the answers by no means, but we tried to look at
It sounds like you got a lot of input from parents.
we've had a lot, and you know, a lot of parents really, it's pretty strong will if they think that we're not gonna have a season. And there are a lot of kids that will travel out, but to play somewhere else, because, you know, we get a lot of questions that, well, the high school can play, why can't we play? Well, we all know that's a TWSWA, that's a different bird to what the youth league is. So a lot of parents don't understand that, and, you know, when you look, to the best of my knowledge, most of the other counties are playing some kind of youth sports. And a lot of kids, if they don't get to play here, they're gonna be traveling, or some kids will.
Any other
So
questions?
that's where
on
we're
that?
at.
What do we need to do? Do we need to
I
approve
think
it?
we need to give a formal yes or no. We asked them to come back with a plan.
I
I say let them play.
Let them play.
Okay, we got 2 let them play, Joanne.
So
Gary?
let them play.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Derek.
Thank you.
Keep it tight.
We'll do our best. So. And we have added more board members
Thank you.
to help with this.
Okay. Okay. One thing that I missed on the top of this, we have a visiting board member with us, Chris Haichu. Chris, hang your hand up. Chris is the Dean of Sciences at Northeast State. We work with them pretty close. We appreciate all the cooperation, and he's working on his boardsmanship, and part of boardsmanship is that you visit other boards and see how they conduct their boards. And I know Chris worked with EMS for a long time. That's how I first met him, through the emergency room. And we really appreciate all his service in all the different areas he has. So Chris, welcome. All right. Go ahead.
Sure. We don't get to meet, well, we don't, a lot of times we're not on a holiday, but today's a holiday. And if there's any veteran, I know Mr. Matheson is, and any other veterans in the audience, if you would stand, Mr. Matheson, you don't have to. If you stand, we'd like to recognize you. Thank you all very much.
We appreciate your service. All right, we have 2 audience participation. John Kutcher on quarantine.
Thank you for the time. I'll try to make this as brief as possible.
Okay?
Yes, quarantine. Quarantine has become a major issue for my family as well as many others. As of yesterday, there's a total of 62 student active cases in Johnson County with 195 students in quarantine. That's almost 10% of our student population. Of the last 44 days, my son has been quarantined 3 times for a total of 23 days and has been completely healthy. How would your job performance be if you missed 23 of the last 44 days at work? The work that he receives is a far cry and pales in comparison to his in-person learning. Quarantine is harming our children more than COVID is. A story, believe it or not, out of the Washington Post on October 5th states we now have clear and reproducible outcomes across the country showing what the secondary spread in schools looks like. Large population-based studies in Wisconsin, North Carolina, Utah, and New York City have demonstrated secondary transmission rates of less than 1% in the school classroom and in bus settings. These low transmission rates contrast starkly with the significant spread demonstrated in informal indoor gatherings or households. And these school transmission studies were conducted well before widespread vaccination of adults, who originated the majority of in-school transmission. In Los Angeles, a mere 0.2% of students sent home to quarantine tested positive for the coronavirus. When students do get infected, it tends to be from outside the school. Children aged 5 to 18, as most of you may know, have a 99.995% survival rate. So who is the quarantine for, is my question. It's not the kids. We do need sick kids to go home, but we need the healthy kids to stay in school. I know I was here at the last meeting, and one of you made a couple mentions, said that, well, the flu is almost non-existent. Well, it's because they don't test for the flu anymore. When a kid says they're sick, they'll test them for COVID. But unless you were to personally ask for a flu test, and the PCR test has an extremely difficult time telling the difference between the flu and COVID, they test positive. I believe if a kid does test positive, they should go home. They shouldn't know any sick kid. But the healthy kids are the ones that are doing most of the sentence, and they're the ones that really need to be in school. I thank you guys for your time.
Appreciate that.
Sir, I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
You said your son had been quarantined 3 times.
3 times.
how did he come in contact with this COVID?
Supposedly, he was within some kind of magical distance that other places throughout the country have deemed, grocery stores, restaurants have deemed that that's not an issue. But in school, for whatever reason, we're still holding on to this thing that I think if it's within 6 feet and it's for more than 15 minutes. But as for my experience with my kids and other people I talk to have had kids that have been quarantined multiple times and have not been sick. We don't mind if our kids sick staying home. It's when they're healthy as can be and now they're home and they're just not getting the same level of education. And I don't know, I have one last thing, and I don't know if it's on your list, but I know that the Senate bill 9076. Okay, you'll be addressing that? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna pull it up to the front so that it'll coincide with your questions.
Thank you, sir.
We have another one, Ashley Warlock.
Thanks again for letting me to speak, and I'm also going to speak along the lines of quarantine. Like his son, my daughter in the past several weeks have been quarantined twice, and she's as healthy as a fiddle. And I spoke at length with Mrs. Arney regarding my concerns with how do we, again, determine that the children should get sent home. In the last board meeting that we were at, we didn't discuss the quarantine necessarily. We talked, you all discussed the just COVID cases. And Ms. Wendy said that she follows the Tennessee State Department Health CDC guidelines. So I called them and I spoke with the director of nursing, Jennifer Dubinsky, and she gave me a bunch of information to research. And one of the things is the school decision support algorithm. And it's a support algorithm, that is it's guidelines to follow. Basically, everybody that I have spoken with, including Mrs. Caroline Hurt, which is our county department health director, but her last name's not Hurt anymore, and I did not write down her current last name. She's our county and Carter counties, as you know, and I spoke at length with her in regards to the contact tracing and quarantine and how it is determined. So after looking at this algorithm and speaking to both of those ladies, and I've noticed there's several issues. So one being that you identify the students based on where they're sitting. Well, I didn't receive, none of the times I received a phone call from the nurse. And so I was only notified by my daughter that I have to come get her immediately because she's quarantined. So I never received an official call, but then I did one time speak with Mrs. Arney, and there does not seem to be a set protocol. There seems to be difference between the high school and the middle school, because I have high schoolers, and I know even from last year my kids have been sent home and they play sports. So I have had COVID, my husband, our family had the breakout. So that should have exempted my daughter. She should not have missed those days of school. But it didn't appear as though, again, I didn't talk to a nurse, that wasn't followed. So I think there's some concerns, there's some issues that need to be addressed about what does the school nurses, how do they follow this algorithm? How do you determine that a kid could be exempt from this quarantine? So that was only one aspect. The other concern I have was I recently started substituting at the high school, and so coming in, there's a bunch of, at the high school and the middle school, and some of the kids that have come in who are like behind, they don't understand what's going on. Well, I just got off of quarantine, or where's so-and-so? Well, they're in quarantine again. These are the kids telling me this. So they're missing the work. and the children get so far behind, it's like their confidence goes down here. They don't even think they want to catch up. They don't even think they can. And so it's their self-esteem, like I was saying, it just dwindles. And then I've had, 9th, 10th graders, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't need math. I just so happened to substitute math for both high school and middle school. And it was the same issues. So I know the teachers have done their best and they put stuff online, but that still is crushing our kids. Not all children learn the same. It's hard to follow online. And then they get so far behind, they don't even want to catch up. And then we all know there's still houses with children here who don't have internet and who don't have computers. I know there's a bunch of the computers in the classroom that I was a substitute in that are sitting there that I would assume that if a parent were to say, hey, can I sign it out? But I don't even know if parents know that, yes, you can take it out, because I didn't even think about it. I know that in the beginning of the year, they were all collected up and got an email, hey, you still have your computer, turn it in. So I think there can be things done along those lines. And I think that there can also be things done, because talking to the directors, that you all as the board members could come up with a better solution so that our kids are not missing all these days of school, the healthy kids. Because I even asked, well, of the kids that were contact traced and were sent home, how many of them have gotten it? That's not being tracked. And that's what I was told. So if we're not tracking that, and let's just say it was even 40% or so, you still have 60% of the kids that are healthy that should be in school. So my plea is to please, can we come up with, in a line with CDC, come up with an alternate plan of action that we take to help get our kids to stay in school. So I know there was talk a couple months ago of having a separate classroom. Well, that seems that you have grades and kids of all ages, I mean, I would even come in and volunteer to help tutor these kids, for an hour or something. Volunteer to get these kids. It hurt my heart that they were just so devastated that they didn't even feel as though that they ever needed math. And I'm not even a teacher. I commend the teachers. I mean, it's got to be hard, So that's all that I have to say.
Okay, I appreciate that. When do you have any kind of comments that you can make in regards to, we're going to ask, I've asked Dr. Simcox to pull number 10 on our agenda, which is updated COVID information forward. Let's do Dr. Simcox, and then I'll let you respond. You may know some new things or why we're doing what we're doing. So we're going to go to item number 10.
Yeah, and Wendy has put together a PowerPoint, but I will share the latest that we know on the bills that the governor is apparently going to sign tomorrow. This is what guidance we've received so far, but when it does come to the quarantine, the Commissioner of Health has the sole authority to determine the quarantine guidelines. So the Commissioner of Health has to let us know what our quarantine guidelines are once this bill goes into effect. As far as I know, I haven't received anything. I don't think Wendy has yet either. But once the bill is signed, we have to have the quarantine guidelines come from the Commissioner of Health. So if we don't have those, let's say he signs that tomorrow, if we don't have those by tomorrow, then we have to stop quarantining until we get those guidelines from the Tennessee Commissioner of Health.
We have to stop quarantining?
That's what Mr. Cagle said, and Ben Torres.
Okay.
If we don't have, there's no quarantining until we get what the Commissioner of Health tells us to follow.
If the Commissioner of Health fails to do anything for the next month, we're still going to stop quarantining.
And we have to.
Have to?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, what about the ones that's on quarantine now? They come back?
They have to get to come back. Based on what we were told last Friday from Ben Torres and Chuck Cagle.
Okay, you want to talk about the other bills?
As far as the other bills that will go into law is, and I don't know, I know there's several lawsuits out right now. This is a Tennessee state law that schools can't mandate the vaccine, and then you have the federal law saying the vaccine has to happen, or they have to show proof of vaccine or weekly testing. But once that's signed, that's a state law, but I know there's several lawsuits against the president under the federal law. Also, there is the law where we can't mandate a person, which means anyone at any time on school property, we cannot mandate masks, which we don't have a mask mandate anyway. So that's really not an issue. A school can submit a written request to the school board. At school, a principal, there's a lot of pressure on the principal to request masks in their school for 14 days if the county average is a 14-day infection rate of at least 1,000 for 100,000 residents. But that's a school-by-school basis, and it would only be in effect for 14 days. But they have to come in front of you all as a school board and request that. If they do that, it has to be for 12 and older an N95 a mask, and for 5 through 12 it has to have masks with air filtration. But that would have to be a school-by-school if they decided to come to you all with that. So that was the main things from the laws that the governor has not signed yet. I know after the 10th day they come into effect anyway, and I think the 10th day is Saturday. But I mean, I saw an email today that he's supposed to sign tomorrow.
So it'll be state law then at that point.
At that point.
And up to this point, our quarantine, which is the questions that we've had tonight, basically, and Wendy chime in here, we've followed what our local Department of Health is telling us.
Tennessee Department of
Tennessee Department, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, our local folks working for them have told us. So Wendy, we'll turn this over to you to provide your program.
Yeah, she's got some data to share.
Okay.
You can answer any of your questions. Oh, the first part's mine. We did do a survey of our staff just so you would know the vaccination rate. This is what we did in April of 2021. We asked how many of our staff had received the COVID vaccination. At that point, it was 50%. Wendy had asked for me to do a survey last week. We had 303 people do the survey, and Rob, you can change the slide. And it's 60% now have received the COVID vaccine. So from April, we had 50% of our employees that were vaccinated, and now we have 60%. I did ask of those, if you have answered to question number 1, are you planning to get the COVID vaccine in the future? A majority of those said no. So we have about 60% of our staff that are vaccinated. And I did ask the final question that I had asked them is about the booster, and 50% that have received the vaccine said they will not be getting the booster.
Did the 50% that didn't take it, did they give you an explanation why they wouldn't?
No, but I can't ask that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just, have you had it or have you not? And then the rest of it is Wendy's information.
And I have one other thing.
Mhm.
These masks that she's wearing and Wendy's wearing, they're useless. You might as well just have your hands over your mouth, because I've had too many doctors, believe me, to tell me that those were useless and those cloth masks were useless. The only effective mask that you will have is the N95.
Some of the studies even say the N95 is not working.
Well, it has to be fitted. Most of the doctors that wore them had them fitted.
Anyway, this slide here is, we've had a major problem since last school board meeting. Since October 8th to, I went ahead and did this, had Rob put this together November 9th. We've had 41 staff members either missing work or positive case from quarantine due to symptoms or waiting PCR. Up that today to 46. Yesterday we had 4 more, and I had a call an hour and a half ago, about 3 more. So, I've not been very happy the last month, pretty much. Had a feeling this was going to happen with fall break and some other things, but you know, this is the highest staff number we've ever had. And yeah, I know we have to listen to the audience and things that happen, but they're not in here working in it every day, I'm sorry to say. And our mask professional and stuff are not here tonight to go over, you know, what they think. I know you believe they don't work. I do. I've worn mine since day 1. I've had it at my house twice. I've tested probably 500 people. I've been out of the country this summer. and haven't got COVID.
Well, Eddie, I'll tell you one thing. All you're gonna do is just breathe through that mask right there. I've had too many professional doctors tell me
Well,
about
that's
that.
fine, that's their opinion too, but I'm saying, it's, my opinion, it works. I have been fitted for the N95 as well, but that's because I'm a healthcare provider, and I do use that when I test most people that are, we think is positive, but I don't, I mean, that's just my opinion, but I'm not gonna get into that, because people can do what they want as far as the mask goes, as far as the vaccine goes, but, I do know that I think that if we would've had some masks on some of our staff during this, they might not have got it. I've had some vaccinated teachers since this month testing positive now, and I think it's because we don't wear a mask. And most of our students are not vaccinated. And another thing is the parents are telling them to come to school sick. And I want the kids to play ball too. I think they should. But parents are sending them to school sick, saying don't go to the nurse. Well, the kids are coming to the nurse because they're so sick they can't hold their head up with the COVID. And as far as the gentleman in the audience about the flu test goes, we do test for the flu. I have flu kits in my office. We have them in the school systems. We do have to do a telehealth visit for those, but we call parents and ask if they want that. If the first we call and get permission for COVID. If they, decline that, then we say we can do a telehealth and we can do strep and flu. And I did it on my own daughter, and she tested negative for the flu and tested positive for COVID. So there is a difference. The tests do distinguish between the two. RSV, strep, etc. So there is a difference in the test. The symptoms are the same. That's why they make the test differently. So.
And there's another difference in taking the flu shot and the COVID shot. Flu shot, the government's not telling you to take it. COVID shot, the government's telling you, and people don't like to be told from the government to do something.
That's one of our biggest problems right there.
Well, I'm not
We
saying
don't
that
like
the
to be
people have to
mandated.
take it. I don't care if they take it or not. I'm just saying that I work in the school system every day, and I'm seeing the results from it. I mean, I've had the kids walking around up there, parents calling me, telling me, well, I'll quarantine my kid from school, but I'm not gonna quarantine them on the rest of their activities. Well, right there's the problem, okay? You're not quarantining for the rest of your activities. You're going to your friend's house when you're supposed to be in quarantine, then that's how the rest of them are getting sick, coming to school, and we've had 120-some in quarantine.
Well,
And
one
we
of the
wanted to
things-
do in-person
One of the
instruction.
things the news talked about for Tennessee is that Johnson County has the highest incident right now of COVID in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not surprised, because
So it's
nobody
not
cares,
just
nobody wants to
it's
listen.
not just school, it's in the community as
everything.
well.
Can I ask you a quick question? And I guess it's just your opinion. If having COVID versus the vaccination, do you think one will protect you more than the other? Is there any proof of that, or?
I've had some, I mean, this round right here is the first time we've had vaccinated people testing positive, but I've questioned them a lot, because I try to just get some statistics. They have been around a lot of unvaccinated people, but some of them have not gotten as sick. I've maybe had 2 vaccinated people that's gotten pretty sick. But other than that, out of the ones that were vaccinated and positive, had very mild symptoms.
And when a person has it, how long are they supposed to be, that they won't have to be quarantined?
If they are a case,
If they have, yes.
they have to isolate. They change the terminology. You have to isolate for 10 days,
Yeah,
and you come back on day 11.
okay, but what's the period before they could possibly get it again? Is it still,
They
is
still
it
give them a
90 days?
90-day window.
90 days.
I don't
Around
know.
90 days.
90 days is just what they. And I mean, we're not allowed to take antibody testing, so, I mean, some people still have it, and they may have long-term antibodies, which has protected them from getting it again, I don't know.
Are you vaccinated?
So do you have another slide?
Antibodies
That's just the one that the health department had on there, which I think somebody told me today, maybe we're up to 56 on that for this week. I don't know what Washington County, Union Point, all them are, but we're 56. And I don't even know what the next couple of slides. Go ahead, Rob. I think that's just what the health department sent me. Just it looks starting to go on a little slight uptick there in November, but health department just sent me those, but the main slide I had to share was the 46 staff that we've either had to put out, we've tried not to use that Esser funds, but we've had to pay that, and some of them have been positive, and we've just had a lot going on.
Oh, okay, that's a total of 46 for the month of November.
Well, October 8th to today, 46 staff.
Since the 8th?
We're still maintaining with the reports that we're getting, we're still maintaining
October
a
the
fairly low number for each day. So I mean, it's like, one of the fears that we had was that it would cause us to have to close schools if we didn't have teachers, but so far we've maintained low. So, and what you're saying, Dr. Simcox, is that as of tomorrow, until the Commissioner of Health puts something out, everybody should be back in school that was quarantined.
Once he signs the bill, which
Once the
they're
governor signs the bill.
saying is tomorrow.
So it'd be Monday.
It would be Monday, but I would think, and this is what Ben and Chuck said, that surely the Commissioner of Health
And
has
Ben and Chuck
guidelines.
are,
Ben Torres, who is the attorney with TSBA,
TSBA.
and then Chuck Cagle is the attorney, he's the school attorney with TOSS.
Right.
But they both said, the Commissioner of Health surely has worked on guidelines to get out once this bill is signed, because this impacts every school system.
The other
across the
question,
state.
that's just quarantine. Positive cases will still stay.
Positive cases have to.
Yeah, they have to isolate.
This is
That's,
just the
uh,
quarantine.
This is quarantine.
Ms. Hadley, how many students have you had hospitalized for COVID?
Maybe 2.
That's a very low number for this population.
Well, I know, but we've all have some parents that's dead now that ain't gonna get to watch their kids grow up too, because they've taken it home to them, but it's part of life, I guess.
You think this uptick comes from
Fall break, et cetera.
Halloween?
Yeah, all the combination.
all right,
Couple things. I want to commend Ms. Warlock for bringing, for what she said, and for volunteering your time. I know you go above and beyond. One thing is the broadband. Can I speak on that just a second? We're off topic. Is that okay?
sure.
I don't know, but the county has gotten a $1.7 million grant to expand broadband in the county. Problem with that is we can't get Skyline, Charter, anybody to come in because surrounding counties have got bigger projects. So why would they come and do a $1.7 million project and then go to Sullivan County and do whatever that project is? I think Carter County's got $3 million. So what's going to happen, by the time they get those done, this grant's going to expire. So that's just part of living in East Tennessee. So I don't know what we're going to do. We got the money to spend, but can't find nobody to do the work.
Skyline won't do it.
Huh?
Skyline won't do it.
No, they're in Carter County, and we've tried to set up a meeting with them, and they didn't show. So that's something, there is a committee in the county, we're working on that. Another one, I guess, is a question and a concern I've had, as Ms. Warlock said, these kids are getting behind that are quarantined.
That's right.
Is there anybody got any ideas? What can we do to help them? What can we do?
They need to be in school. This is not deadly. I mean,
Yeah, it is deadly. There's people dying from it.
there are some, yeah.
Ask him. He
Well,
knows.
and it doesn't diminish from those who have passed. Yes, for some it is. Like he was talking about the vaccination and why people aren't getting it. Large part of the reason people not getting it, it hadn't been out long enough. The guy who even created the mRNA process, that process alone has extreme risks with it. So the vaccine fall for certain people, you're 65 and above, you're high risk, your comorbidities. Even I'm in a comorbidity. But if I were to die with COVID, don't blame COVID. Blame my love of double big pals and large Frenchy fries, because that's what would do me in. It's
Well,
not the code.
another thing, sir, Mr. Fauci has lied to the public and tells them
Consistent.
everything about it, which is wrong. And nobody knows actually what's going on.
Yeah, that's part of the frustration.
Yep.
Last meeting, I was so frustrated, and I kind of took it out on Wendy, and I already apologized to her. I shouldn't have done that. I'll apologize publicly. I'm sorry for sort of jumping down Wendy's throat. But it's just because I was frustrated. Who do you believe? I don't know.
Well, you believe the
But the
science.
thing about it,
Right, believe in science.
There's studies being done and have been done. When he asked the question about vaccinated versus natural immunity has been proven to have up to 25 or 27% more effective than the vaccine. They just published out the other day that the vaccine, after 6 months, is almost useless, with the Moderna vaccine having the most lasting effect, but even that is down. So, but they're not, and I say by they, the United States, the government is not looking into natural immunity and the effect of it.
Yeah.
Like she said, they don't accept antibodies test. She said she's wore a mask, never got COVID. Now, I don't know if she's vaccinated or not, but if she didn't take an antibodies test to prove that she didn't have the antibodies, she could have been an asymptomatic case, had it, never had one symptom.
Okay.
Don't say you never had it. if you
We're
don't.
gonna move on. I think
Okay.
we've
But
had
I
good,
think-
we appreciate you bringing it to our attention, and I think like Dr. Simcox has said, that, you know, we'll see where the governor goes with this and the Department of Health. But basically, what we're doing is following the guidelines, because we're none of us experts. So we'll wait and see what this policy does, and you'll let them know.
Yes.
And so hopefully effective Monday, all our quarantine kids will be back in school, because we agree with you, they need to be taught. Okay, next item on our agenda is a special presentation by the Student Council from the Johnson County Middle School. Ladies?
We have some things here for you in Johnson County
You want
Middle
to step
School.
down there? She didn't, Dr. Simcox wasn't aware of this presentation. She wondered what I was whispering about on the agenda.
We have some things here for you in Johnson County Middle School. Student Council wants to thank you for all that you do for our school system. Our student council at Johnson County Middle School will be sponsoring a school-wide food drive in your honor. We will be partnering with a food bank, and hopefully we will be able to supply many families with the best food assistance.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Help me get the children. I'll sit down.
Thank you very much. All right. Now, and the next special presentation is Dr. Long.
Sorry.
First, I want to say it's absolutely fantastic to get to honor you tonight and have a little bit of normalcy in all this chaos. Rome Creek Elementary has something they want to just read to you. Okay. This is from Samaritan's Purse. Dear Dr. Simcox, on behalf of Franklin Graham, we want to thank you for your work to support the schools of Johnson County with excellence. We appreciate all you are doing in service to the students, their families, and the faculty and staff of your schools. In honor of Directors Appreciation Month, the faculty and staff at Rome Creek Elementary School are have-packed 16 shoebox gifts for Operation Christmas Child that will be delivered to children in need in countries around the globe. We hope you will be encouraged to learn that your staff are honoring your work in such a thoughtful way.
Thank you. That's great.
All right, we appreciate it. Those are two wonderful ways of honoring Dr. Simcox. All right, with the board's approval, if there's no objections, I'd like to pull number 11 forward so that these guests don't have to spend the rest of the night here because they'll have to travel. Number 11 is approve the request for qualifications and enter into a contract with Sean Shanks Architects to proceed with Esser-funded construction projects that have been approved by the state. So, Dr. Simcox.
Yes, in our Esser 3.0 plan, as you remember, that was approved by you all, and has been approved by the state, finally. I know Angie can actually sleep and breathe a little bit. It is in there for the renovation of Mountain City, which includes building them a new gym, taking the existing gym and turning it into 4 classrooms, the HVAC at Doe, the HVAC at Johnson County High School, and then the HVAC at Rome Creek. So we did an RFQ, and I'll let Herbie can sort of explain a lot more to you, but we definitely want, our request is to approve the RFQ with Shaw and Shanks. They've done all the work for us in our school systems for numerous years. Those have been on the board for a long time. They do a great job. And Tim and Tom are here as well to answer any questions.
Herbie?
We normally would have to go through the RFQ process, but according to Esser guidelines, all the webinars we watched, we had to do that. So we put it out there instead of a request for proposals. They turn in their qualifications. Dr. Simcox, myself, Ms. Wills, Ms. Triplett, Mr. Smiley, and Tina, we were all there on the committee, and as the requests come in, we said we did that on the rubric system. And of course, Shaw and Shanks, they had a better score basically because of the relationship that we've had over the years. So we're hoping we can work with them again.
And I can honestly say, working with these two gentlemen and their firm in the past, when we did the renovations on the other schools and building on the schools, they've always been more than generous with their time, and whenever we've run into problems on projects, they've always addressed them. I know there were issues when we did renovations like Rome Creek and areas like that, and they worked with us to try to get those resolved. So we're glad to have that done. And again, if you will, just for our audience, slower this time.
Okay.
The different projects, and this is with Esser funds, so this is not any of our funds, local funds.
This is no local funds at all. This is all through Esser 3.0, and it's expanding Mountain City, which is overcrowded. So it would be building on a new gym at Mountain City Elementary, would look just like the one at Doe, which Sean Shanks did.
And where's that going to be located?
Well, right now, they're waiting on the topo, but the initial plan is it will be sort of catty corner to the existing gym. So the flow of traffic will have to change a little bit, but it'll be catty corner to where the existing gym is. And then once they get that built, and it'll have a gym and a classroom, it'll have bathrooms, a storage area, and then the existing gym will turn into 4 classrooms because they need space at Mountain City. Also on the Esser 3.0 is the HVAC at the high school to be replaced, HVAC at Doe to be replaced, and the HVAC system at Rome Creek.
Replacing units.
Yeah,
The
the high school is the units. With Esser 3.0, we are on a timeline. This is a federal grant, so there's a timeline. Our dollars have to be expended by June the 30th of 2024, and everything has to be totally spent and drawn down by September 30th of 2024. If we have not got it all spent, they will take what we have not spent back and reallocate it somewhere else. So we want ours to be spent.
Director,
Yes.
do you think you have enough money to cover all that expense?
Yes.
Now with cost of building material and all that going up?
We went high, and we know everyone across the state is doing building projects with their Esser dollars, but we feel very confident about it.
If you should run out of money, then what's going to be your next step?
We will just eliminate one of the HVAC projects.
Okay.
I just thought of this the other day. At Mountain City, the gymnasium, the old gymnasium, had an elevator in it. It's on a different level.
And that will stay. the stage part will come out, but the elevator will have to stay because of ADA compliance.
Okay.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but that's what's
Okay,
on the
so
plan.
it's-
It's just the stage part will come out.
Okay. I just thought of that the other day, because I knew we had some elevator problems a few years ago there.
Gay, does this meet your approval?
There's some students, and, we've got so many students that, and this kind of ties into the sports, the ball teams, I've often said, we have so many students that love ball, and they can't even, they've never played a game at their own school. So this is exciting that, some of the highest number of students in the county will actually get to play a ball game at their own school. So we're excited, and the new classrooms, that'll be great. So we're
You've
excited.
been
I'd
waiting,
like to say thank you. It's a
you've been
lot.
waiting for this for a long time.
I have.
She'll probably
20
have her
years.
shovel out there tomorrow.
20 years I've been.
All right, anything else on this? We need a motion.
I move we approve.
Mr. Long's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have a second? Any more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Matheson?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. Tim and Tom, it's gonna be good working with you again. All right. Be careful going down that mountain. All right, now back to our normal agenda. We have the consent agenda. Is there, if you would, review that. If there's anything anyone wants pulled off, if you would mention that. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve it as it's written.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Take the roll.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Matheson?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. Glad to have our student board member, Matthew, back. Matthew?
It's been a while. It's been like 2 months now.
I think so.
Unluckily, I've been quarantined for the first 2 meetings I should have been here for, but it's all right.
Okay, all right. Let's don't start the quarantine. Move on.
Yeah, we talked about that way too much. But anyways, for the month of November, for first we ought to say the FCA meeting we held on Tuesday by Daniel Jones. It was amazing. He was a guest speaker, and he got back from I think it was from Uganda. He got back from his trip, and they were helping with the Operation Christmas Child program, and they were giving people free gifts and stuff. It's awesome. Then last week, Student Council, they held a whole appreciation for our custodians, and I was in on that as well, and it was good too. This week, the Air Force recruiting from Bristol is coming, so is the National Guard. Airman Dempsey, which is a recent graduate from JCHS, he came and spoke to us about all like the benefits you get and what you do and how to sign up for it. It's really cool. The FFA now has poinsettias for sale for the Christmas, and they have like tomatoes, lettuce, potatoes, and everything like that. They're open for like, I think it's Monday for Friday for school hours only. After that, it's just you have to come back the next day. Then Longhorn basketball starts Tuesday, November 16th, which I'm really excited for. I'm gonna go to all those games. And varsity boys and girls travel to volunteer to play. And the Longhorns will also be hosting the Hall of Champions tournament this weekend.
All right, thank you, Matt.
I'd like to ask a question there, Chairman, to the director. Why does this high school not offer the ROTC class year?
We looked into ROTC. It's probably been
2 or 3 times. I've asked about it.
Yeah,
3
2
or
or
4
3 times. We don't have the facilities to be able to house ROTC. The requirements that you have to be able, it's a great program. I wish we could offer it, but the requirements you have to have for the facilities itself, we would have nowhere to house that.
And I don't think they have the numbers.
No,
Because we've tried 2 or 3 different times.
Yeah, Mr. Henley, I don't think was there when, it was Ms. Troop when we actually put out a,
Yeah, because I think the last, yeah,
and we did not even have that express interest.
yeah, we've tried.
Tried to look into ROTC. The Army ROTC is, they have chapters, and so like all their chapters were full, and someone has to drop out before they'll add another chapter, so to speak. So that was one reason why the Army. I've also talked to the Navy and to the Air Force as they've come through. the recruiters that's come through have said that they would try to help us, but the Army, it just didn't look like it was an option because of the chapter and because of the participation. But we'd love to have ROTC of some sort.
Can you not approach this Air Force recruiter that's coming up there this week, or next week?
Yeah, we just had an Air Force recruiter this past week.
Okay, he's done been here.
Yeah, we've had the Army. He has a really good relationship with us. He comes almost weekly. He's actually applied to be one of our substitute teachers, so we're hoping we can get him in the classrooms as well. He comes on Wednesdays, and we've had the Navy's been there, Marines, and Air Force this year, and we're one of the only school systems that have opened back up and allowed the recruiters in, so they've been really thankful and appreciative of us doing that. They brought the pull-up bar 2 times, I believe, for lunch. The kids really like that. We put the pull-up bar out there, and they give them, prizes and that sort of thing for doing pull-ups. And yeah, anyway.
Kind of related to that, I got something that just come to mind. I've been to other schools' graduations, and a lot of them will recognize the graduates that's going into the armed services. Could we look at doing something like that?
They do that for their senior awards night. They do that.
They're recognized at the graduation too, if you look at your
On the program?
I know, but,
And they have cords as well.
Yeah. I just think, and that usually is received better than anything. I mean, that stuck out in my mind at these graduations more than anything. It is, have them all just stand. I mean, it wouldn't take but 30 seconds.
Yeah.
All right, next item, 5-year plan update.
Just update from the 5-year plan, continue teacher academies throughout the school year that will be based on current needs and state initiatives for staff members. We do those monthly. There's several of those. Angie, do you want to, they're more specifically geared towards the elementary because they come together and collaborate. Middle school and high school have their own one on the Hill. So the teacher academies are more geared towards the elementary and our new teachers. So I ask her just to speak really briefly.
We've been doing these for quite some time now. I can't say enough great things about Shonda Fenner, our elementary instructional coach. Without her, I could not do what we do at the elementary level with our teacher academies. But we've had a really strong focus. We've kind of changed it up this year. We're meeting in grade levels. So specifically, like kindergarten will have a grade level at a time after school. Like you'll probably see that in your Friday fact sheet. And with each of those, we've had a strong focus on what we can do to improve literacy. And then also because our math scores, as we talked about, last month, I think, sharing some of our data, we're really trying to fill in some of those learning gaps that's been caused, from us missing, and doing some very specific PD with teachers on how to incorporate some strong math practices and review, strategies on how they can kind of make up for some of this learning loss. So that's been our main focus this year, and we've broken that down by grade level.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, approval of Johnson County School travel regulations effective November 12th, 2021.
Yeah, our travel regulations had not been approved since 2016, and ours and the county's had to be updated, and it's still just following what the GSA, the government sites per diem is. That's what we follow, what the federal says, and that's what the county follows. So we just had to have an updated travel.
Is this an audit exception or a question, or we just caught it?
We just
caught it.
And we're going to state it as following GSA, but we're going to get approval with the auditor, and if he wants us just to attach what GSA for Tennessee is, we'll just attach it to the back. But it's going to be exactly what GSA is stating.
Okay.
This is a first reading, second reading, or?
We can approve it.
It's just approval. We will approve. Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Matheson?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. Next item is approval for county purchasing agent to begin the process of seeking bids to purchase 3 72-passenger school buses.
It is that time of year again, so Dr. Long, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Yes. Beginning last year, This has always been a line item in the county commission's budget. Beginning last year, they sort of said they wanted to take that process, which is fine because it comes out of their budget. So around this time last year, we're just to recap, we outlined that last year and this year we would have 8 age out, and that we would need to replace them with 5. And last year we bought 2, and we need to buy the remaining 3 this year based on the age out dates. So we're just seeking your permission to let the purchasing agent start the bid process.
I'd like to ask a question. Mr. Long, that's what I was calling you about the other day when we crossed the details.
I'm gonna move a little closer to you.
Why is it we need the 72 passengers?
The full-size buses are 66 passenger or 72 passenger, and we just get the 72s.
Well, I mean, you can sit down here at Shelms Crossroads and watch the bus line come down through there. Some buses might have 1, 2, 3 kids on them. They go down to Rones Creek. We go down to Rones Creek, here their parents are in their cars backed up there, and the school buses don't get high floated. So why can't a 66 passenger take care of that job?
66 passenger is not really hardly any cheaper, but Darwin can answer those questions better than I can.
I've got 2 bus routes right now that has 78 kids on the bus. The buses that we have are 72 passenger. I'm not supposed to be hauling more than 72 kids.
You just told on yourself.
Well, I understand the facts.
And those passengers are based on school.
The Valley Trailer Park is one big.
Yeah.
We could arrange another bus route, but that would incur have to have another bus driver.
Another expense.
There's 35 kids that gets on it Doe Trailer Park. One stop.
I'm not saying that right there. I'm saying right down there at Shelms Crossroads. You sit right down there in the evening when the buses dismiss, or school's dismissed, and you see them 72 passengers come through there, and no kids on it hardly at all.
Yeah, I've got some I've got like 16 kids on one bus.
Buses, the only thing I can say, buses don't always spend their entire service life with us on the same route. So when a 72 passenger costs a couple thousand more than a 66 passenger, it really doesn't make sense to buy them.
Well, $2,000 is a lot of money.
I'm not saying 2,000 is not a lot of money, but I'm saying that we want our buses are essentially, we've got special ed buses, and we've got, for the most part, 72 passengers that are interchangeable. The other option's a 66 passenger, which 1 or 2 kids would still make that one look awful empty too. And I don't know the route numbers. I don't know the route numbers.
The difference between a 66 and a 72 passenger bus is 2 seats. That's the only difference.
And a little over $2,000.
Yeah.
I grabbed that number out of thin air. I don't know what
That's
the
a lot
number
of money
is.
to
I don't
pay
know.
for. Well, Darwin mentioned that last year.
Yeah, I don't know.
But as, I can see what Mr.
But like I
Mason's
said,
saying.
they don't spend their route life necessarily on that Shelms route. They might be at Doe Trailer Park next year, depending on how we shuffle things around.
Right. But it's always been that way. Back when I drove in the early 80s, had the same problem. Had kids, one day they'd be there, the next day they wouldn't. You know, it depends on.
I've dealt with this every day.
And I don't know when you've looked, I don't sit there and watch them. I just don't. I don't have time to do that. But if you've looked lately, I mean, our enrollment's down day to day with what we've been, and I don't want to say the Q word, but with what we've been talking about.
There's more kids driving this time.
Well, that's a great point, and that's exactly why we're losing 8 and we're only asking for 5.
Yeah.
That's a big part of that. We're trying to be as tight with it as we can. We don't want buses that we don't need sitting on that lot.
But what you need to do is take your routes and figure out what size bus you need on that route, and that's what you buy.
And
But
that
bus,
bus went fine
but then
for
that,
this year.
but then that bus will be relegated to that route forever, and we may need to change routes.
Right.
And if they're not that much more expensive and they're not hardly any more fuel efficient, over the life of the bus, it don't make a whole lot of sense.
So you're gonna tell the taxpayers out there that $2,000 is not much more to spend, right?
You're not putting words in my mouth. I didn't say that. I'm just saying that we think that it's best to buy 72 passenger buses. If it's the pleasure of the board for us to buy 66 passengers, we will, but there'll be some routes that they won't be able to be used.
But I think what you need to do is take an assessment of what you need on those routes, what buses you're gonna replace. And see
I
what
mean,
the
it would
population.
make more sense, this is just my opinion, it would make more sense to me if a 20-passenger bus was an option or a 45-passenger bus was an option. But when you're talking about a bus with 2 more seats or 2 less seats.
I mean, they have a 72 passenger that goes down my road every day, and there's no kids on it. There's no kids on it. Which you could use a 66 passenger, maybe a 45 passenger.
Probably could.
Well, I think one of the other things too that you've done over the years is you've changed routes to try to accommodate
2,000.
kids. So you
Less than 2,000.
moved roads and moved, how many?
Yeah, we've changed district lines.
Right.
So on and so forth.
Okay.
But we're all supposed to be stewards of the taxpayers' money,
Yep.
right?
And I could use a couple of 96-passenger buses, truthfully. But that might be this year. Next year, they might be at Village. So the school bus at Village is a 66-passenger, can't haul all the kids. So I've got to figure out where we need to put it.
I think before I buy 372s, I would see if I could use a 66 in it.
Okay.
Okay, so, well, the motion here is, let's see if this motion passes first. If it doesn't, then we'll move on it. The motion is approval for 3 72 passenger buses. So do we have a motion on that item?
We're really just voting on seeking bids. We're not approving buying anything.
And the county commission's gonna pay for these buses, so it's really gonna come down to what they say. If we approve this, they will have the final say. Is that correct or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But if the school garage gives the specs on it, that's what they're gonna bid for 72 passengers.
Well, I think, the flexibility is what you're talking about. And if you knew what the routes were, and like I say, we change bus routes from time to time, trying to get kids into different schools. You've got a couple that are over. So, I think, I feel like I'm a good steward of their money by going from 8 to 3, and the ones that we got left being flexible.
That was the whole point, going from 8 to 3 was not to ask for any vehicles that we did not need.
8 to 5.
So 8
to 5.
8 to 5, so there's 8 going out, and we're just buying, just replacing them for 5. Okay.
And last year we bought 2, this year we're replacing. So trying to go back with 5.
I move we approve purchasing agent to do what he needs to do. 73 buses, 372 passenger buses.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Matheson?
No.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. All right, next item is approve the Tennessee class sets, 3 years with Gallopade funding through Esser 3.0.
Yes, this is just something we put in our Esser dollars. Angie can speak a little bit more on it. It's got to do with instruction and for our students.
We have not had social studies curriculum. We did not purchase textbooks the last adoption cycle, and teachers have just repeatedly expressed that they need some resources and materials for social studies. There's other things we've been using, but not necessarily a curriculum to follow. And so that is one of the things that we put in Esser, and this will be a K-8 resource for social studies instruction.
And y'all have reviewed this program pretty closely?
We have, and there's other districts that have purchased that are using it. And there's a free trial. A lot of our teachers use the free materials anyway, but this would just give them access to more than just the free materials, and they would have printed materials for students.
And this doesn't have, because I've been asked this question a bunch of times on
No,
current curriculum.
no,
This has
Reform
nothing in it
Race
that
series.
is controversial.
No.
Okay.
All right.
That was my question, maybe.
No.
All right. All right, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Matheson?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. All right, we have a first reading of TSBA recommended changes on the following policies. The first one is facilities planning, that's 3.208. And this has a provision 6 under asbestos, states to survey the conditions every 12 months for asbestos. Changed to 6 months to align with federal requirements, so it goes from 12 to 6. The next one is class size ratios. This is a new policy that's required by TSBA. That states that class sizes shall not exceed the averages allowed by state law, and that's policy 4.201. The next one is family parent involvement, and this is an update. It's the entire policy taking out the TCSPP process, which is no longer in effect. That's 4.502. And the last one is religion and curriculum, and this is an update the entire policy based on changes required by TCA and Tennessee Code Annotated, and it's 4.804. Dr. Simcox.
You read all my wording. This, again, is just first reading, and this is TSBA recommended changes to these policies. And there's nothing really major in it.
What is TCSPP?
TCSPP was a parent-family involvement process that was in place probably 10 years ago. And when the school improvement process came along and Title I contracts, it eliminated TCSPP, but TSBA has never taken it out of the policy. So it's obsolete now.
Okay. All right. Is there any, do we have a motion?
It's first reading.
No, it's first,
That's
yeah,
first
first
reading.
reading. Do we have any questions? All right, moving on, budget update. Tina Lipford.
The school department at the end of October was 26.8% revenue received and 26.6% of appropriations expended in general purpose, 4.5% revenue received and 8.5% expended in federal projects, 24.3% revenue received and 27.7% of appropriations expended in central cafeteria, and Head Start, looking at fiscal year, was 20.3% revenue received, 20.4% appropriations expended. Sales tax collections received in October for the month of September were $214,178. Collections were up $34,729 from the same month in the prior year. Property tax collections received in October were $131,257.65, and the sales tax numbers are before the split with the county occurs.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Dr. Simcox?
Yes, I just did want to say Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans. Very proud and honored that you served our country the way you did, so Happy Veterans Day to everyone. We do have TSBA next weekend, and did want to let you know, Saturday morning at 8:45, come to Cheekwood B. Myself, Dr. Long, Mr. Adams, and Ms. Wheels, and Kevin will be presenting on our CTE innovations at TSBA. So I think this is the first time, and I don't know how many years that we've actually
I don't
been
ever remember one, so.
chosen to
We
be
did,
presented.
I had to do one for
Did you?
master, yeah. We did one with one of the school projects.
We're very excited about that. Also wanted to let you know that I received an email today from U-Trust, and I do want to say thank you to Serena. Serena oversees the U-Trust program, which is where they do recognitions of the staff every month. Last month was custodians. We received an award for the Best Appreciation Program in East Tennessee.
Wow.
So therefore, they're mailing a plaque to us They're also sending a check for $100 for each of our schools as part of the award. And that can go back to where they're doing the appreciation. So very appreciative of that, and I just want to say thank you, Serena, for taking the time to even nominate us. So I wanted to share that. And then in December, before our board meeting, we will have our Christmas reception at 5:15 in the conference room.
Okay. All right, Mr. Matheson?
You got anything?
I'd just like to thank everyone that sent me a get well card during my time of sickness, and all the many cards that I received while I was in the hospital. Certainly makes you feel good when you're isolated and you don't have any company coming in. So thank everybody, especially Mrs. Laura Plank. That's all I have.
Mr. Payne?
Yeah, I want to say it's good to see Gary back. And I want to thank all our veterans since it's Veterans Day. And that because of our veterans, you know, we still have the First Amendment. And I want to thank everyone that participates. We can stand up and we can talk. And here in Johnson County, we've been reasonable. We've not had anybody jumping up. We've not had to get the police to escort anybody out or anything. And it, even though we might disagree on things, it doesn't get out of hand. And I want to thank our chairman. I think normally we say you have 5 minutes, but I've never seen him gavel anybody down. I hope this doesn't entice anybody to go for a 30-minute speech. But if you go a few minutes over, you know, we've been real tolerant of that, and I think that's important. And I just want to thank all the veterans that we have what we do here in this country.
Ms. Reeves? Long?
Yeah, I'm glad Gary's feeling well enough to be back with us. It's good to have a full board back, and I'm glad he's able to be back with us. Just thanks everybody for everything you do. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and just like Mr. Payne said, I think I've gotten on Wendy a little more than what I should have in public, and I'm sorry, and it's. I've called Michelle and Stephen both and asked, did I get on her too hard? But I know you're just doing what you're supposed to do, and I do appreciate it.
And I'm glad to see Mr. Matheson and Mr. Peak both back with us, and we have a full board. And I also want to echo Mr. Long and Mr. Payne. Wendy's got a tough job. We appreciate you and your nurses, and I know this has been difficult. I know it's difficult for parents, and we don't want people to be quarantined. So, hey, we'd all like for the governor to sign this and the commissioner take as long as he could, but we'll see what happens. And we have to follow their guidelines. So, it's not really up to us. I want to say thank you to all the staff who've been working extra hard and diligent through this whole process. And it is tough. It's tough on a lot of kids because of the learning loss that we go through with this COVID. So we appreciate everything that you do out there every day. Dr. Simcox, we appreciate your efforts. This is Director's Appreciation and month, and we do appreciate that. And Serena, thank you for getting all the teachers a $100 gift certificate. Serena works very hard for our board and makes sure everything's in good shape, and we really appreciate it. All right, Dr. Long, you have anything else? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All right, adjourn.